Summer Hit Parade, starring Frank Sinatra.
Smile a While with Lorenzo Jones and his wife, Belle.
Here's the Manhattan merry-go-round that brings you the bright side of life, that whirls you in music to all the big night spots of New York town, to hear the top songs of the week sung so clearly you can understand every word and sing them yourself.
This is the golden age of radio. I'm Dick Bertel, and tonight we'll take you on another audio excursion back to radio's formative years. You'll hear the programs that made the era golden, and meet people who made those broadcasts a reality.
The Golden Age of Radio, brought to you by WTIC and Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank and their Cromwell Savings Bank Division. Hometown friends serving your best banking interests in every way. Now, here is your host, Dick Bertel.
Good evening, and with me once again is radio historian collector Ed Corcoran. Well, Ed, who's our guest tonight?
One of the most familiar names of radio, which I'm sure everybody knows, and also a producer of one of the most exciting new series that come along in many a year, a program called 0 Hour. I'd like you all to meet Elliott Lewis.
Well, Elliott, we've had a chance to chat a bit before the program went on tonight, and I learned that you've spent most of your career on the West Coast. Are you from California originally?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm from the East. I came out to California to go to college, to the Los Angeles City College, to study law. And I was in the middle of a pre-law course, hoping to transfer. The City College is junior college, 2-year college. And I got involved with a new class at the school called radio, and I took it as for 2 units or whatever it was, I don't remember. And a man named True Boardman, who had gone to Los Angeles City College, was at that time working at station KHJ here in Los Angeles. And KHJ at that time was part of the Don Lee Network, and the Don Lee Network at that time was affiliated with CBS. And True came down to City College and spoke to the radio class, invited everybody to come down and audition. I went down and auditioned, and I got a job on a special for the Red Cross, and my part was to yell earthquake, earthquake, and rattle some chairs. I think it was the life of Simon Bolivar. And then I got some more jobs in local and West Coast shows out of that, and quit school, dropped out of school, and went to work.
Well, I think the earliest recollection I have of hearing you was on the Jack Benny program in a character which I guess you've been associated with for many years, called Remley.
Well, that's strange. Everybody is certain that they heard Remley speak on the Benny Show, and he never did. Frank was there, and he was a left-handed guitar player, and he was a friend of Phil's. He was a dear, dear, nice man. And I was on the Benny Show as an actor, playing a character that Jack called the Mully. I don't know how it's spelled or what it means, but he was a kind of a big jerk. And we would do the Christmas show every year. The first time I was on the Benny Show playing that character, the show originated in the NBC studios on Melrose Avenue. And they had just built the studios, and at the same time, because they were kind of fill-in studios, they had a new building going up at the corner of Sunset and Vine, which has since been torn down. And there was a show where the Benny people were moving from the studio on Melrose to the studio at Sunset and Vine, and they needed 2 moving men, and this big dumb ox was one of the moving men. And that's how I got on the Benny Show. He called me because he'd heard me do something, I don't know what. And he laughed. I amused him and had marvelous material. I didn't do anything particularly funny, I didn't think. And so I got to know Jack, and I got to know Phil. And then when Phil did his own show, Remley was going to be himself, was going to play Remley. And Frank got so embarrassed he couldn't talk, and he didn't know how to do it. So Phil called me and said, you better get over here right away and see what you can do with this. And it was supposed to be like just the 1 week. And it was a cute spot. Very short scene in the show, and the audience loved it, so the writers and Phil said, well, could you do it again next week? And I said, yes, and we did it for 9 years.
For goodness sakes. That was on Benny for 9, or was it on the Phil Harris?
No, on the Phil Harris Show, and to this day, everyone is certain, because they talked about Remley so much on Jack's show, that Remley was on Jack's show, and he wasn't. I mean, he was there personally. You could watch. He had a very tragic ending, Frank. Frank and his wife had one child, a boy, who was lost at sea in a fishing accident off the Oregon coast, and Remley never recovered from that, and he died.
Well, that's a sad story, but on a brighter note, Remley was a very, very funny character, and the writing on that show was great.
Marvelous scripts. Ray Singer and Dick Chevrolet wrote that.
Yes, and some great supporting players. We were talking about a few of them. Gail Gordon was on there, and there was
Sheldon Leonard used to come in and work the show. Walter Tetley, of course, was on every week. He played Julius, the kid, the delivery boy that we did all those terrible things to, like putting them in the oven and everything. I remember talking to Jack Benny one day, because we would also double over and do the Benny show. I would be playing the other character on the Benny show, and Phil and I would ride back and forth. I remember once going from CBS to NBC, we cut across the parking lot because the shows backed into each other. Jack was on out here. Show originated 4 to 4:30, and Phil's show originated when we were both on Sundays, 4:30 to 5. They were on later out here, but that fed New York at 7 o'clock, I guess. And they got a 2-passenger bicycle for Phil and I to ride, so they get publicity shots of us. Right? We almost blew both shows because neither of us can handle a bike. But I asked Jack once why, because I was really serious. We were getting big, big laughs, and I wasn't sure why. I was very happy that we were getting laughs, and so was Phil, and so were the writers. But I wasn't sure why, and I asked Jack. And he said, well, I think it's because the two of you, when there's a really difficult situation, do and say what everybody would really like to do and say if they had the nerve. And they don't have the nerve, so they laugh because you really do, and you just do. And it's funny that way. That was a marvelous show.
Well, Ed, let's bring back Remley and the Phil Harris Show.
Yes, it's Sunday, time for the Phil Harris-Alice Faye Show, presented by the makers of Rexall Drug Products and your Rexall family druggist. Written by Ray Singer and Dick Chevrolet, with Elliott Lewis, Walter Tetley, Robert North, Janine Roos, Ann Whitfield, Walter Scharf and his music, yours truly, Bill Foreman, and starring Alice Faye and Phil Harris. Today, as we look in on the Harrises, Phil and Alice have just arrived at NBC for rehearsal of their radio program.
Hey, we better hurry, Alice. We'll be late for rehearsal. I don't want to set a bad example for the guys in the band. You know, since we've got a new sponsor, those guys have changed. They become gentlemen.
I haven't noticed any change in them.
Well, I have, and I work with them. I laid the law down to them last week. I said, from now on, we ain't going to have any more horse playing or poker games at rehearsal.
Good for you, Phil. Well, we'd better get in or the boys will start playing without you.
They can't start without me.
Why not?
I got the dice.
Oh, Phil, the Rexall people aren't going to like that. You're in enough trouble with the company already.
What trouble?
Last week at their store, you insulted a customer and smashed every bottle on the perfume counter. Gosh, Phil, aren't you ever going to grow up? Why do you always get into trouble?
I don't know. I guess it's just the Peter Pan in me.
To make things worse, when you cut your hand, you let Frankie sign your contract with the Rexall Drug Company.
Well, how was I to know he'd sign his own name instead of mine?
You know, Phil, with that contract, Frankie is now legally the star of the program.
Oh, nonsense. Frankie's probably forgotten about that contract already. You seem to forget that Frankie's my pal. He wouldn't try to take over. Don't worry about it. You'll see just as soon as we get into the studio. All right, quiet, you guys. Quiet!
I've told you the whole story. That's why the sponsor insisted that I be the star of this show.
Hey, you mean you're in charge now, Remley?
Irrevocably. From this moment forward, I am your leader. You are to accept my orders with unquestioning obedience. I am an absolute power. Hi, Remley. Cut that out. Now, from now on, there'll be no more clowning. I want more respect than you showed to your former leader. How's the trouble with him? He was nothing
Don't you say nothing about our former leader. He was a great guy.
You said it.
He was our leader for 10 years and did a great job. We'll never forget him. No matter where he goes, we'll always have a soft spot in our hearts for good old... Hey, Artie, what was his name again?
His name was Isham Jones.
Yeah, good old Ice.
It's Phil Harris. Don't feel sorry for him. He's still with us. I'm going to let him play the cymbals. Just because I'm the star of the show don't mean I'd throw him out. He's my pal. What do you think I am, a heel?
Heel, Remley, heel.
That's enough out of you. Now, in line with the dignity of our new sponsor, you'll notice I made a few changes in the orchestra. I've added 3 new violins and a lady, harpist. And another thing, from now on, I'm going to do the singing. So let's go over my number. I'm singing That's What I Like About the South, but I'm changing the lyrics.
Why changing?
Because they're corny. Won't you come with me to Alabama? Come and see my dear old mammy. She's boiling eggs and frying hammy, and that's what I like about the South. Nothing. I'm changing the lyrics to fit my personality and birthplace. From now on, it goes like this. Won't you come with me to North Dakota? Come and see my dear old Moda. She's mixing me a scotch and soda, and that's what I like about the North. Yeah! All right, now we'll try it that way.
Hold it, all right, hold it. Okay, Remley, you can step down now. The maestro's here.
I knew Isham would show up.
Hey, Remley. Hey, huh? That was a funny gag. You're signing your name to my contract last week. Imagine. You, the star of the program. Oh, you're a clip, kid.
Yeah. Ain't I?
Yeah.
All right, sit down and play the cymbals. I got a band to rehearse.
Cymbals? Remley, listen to me.
Please, you're running me into overtime. All right, fellas, one chorus of our new theme. That's what I like about North Dakota.
Hey, wait a minute, Remley. You're not singing. That's what you like about what?
North Dakota.
That's the last straw. Now get off of this stand.
But
Remley.
my contract
Get
says...
down. Get off of here. Now, look, I don't know what Remley told you guys, but I'm still the boss. I'm your leader.
Hi, Isham.
Why? I don't want any more of that. Why does he keep calling me Isham? All right, fellas, look. Now, we're doing That's What I Like About the South, and we're doing it my way. Hit it. Won't you come with me to Alabama? Let's go. Hold it! Hold it! Hold it! Hold it! Who smuggled Shep Fields into this?
That's the girl harpist I hired.
Harpist? Lady, will you? Lady! Please, lady, will you take that screen door and get out of here?
This thing really has him down. I wish there was some way I could get that contract back from Frankie.
Hello, Mommy. Hi, Mommy. Where'd Daddy go?
Oh, he had business to attend to, children. He's got a problem that's bothering him.
Can we help, Mommy?
Oh, thanks, honey, but there's nothing you can do. You're just children and... Children? Say, maybe that's the way to do it. If I can appeal to Frankie's human side... Look, girls, here's what I want you to do. When Uncle Frankie comes out of NBC, we'll be standing here looking very sad.
Well, so long, fellas. Be on time for the show Sunday.
Okay, Frankie. See you Sunday, Maestro.
Yep. Fine bunch of men I have working for me. Dum, dum, dum. Oh, I'm the star of Rexall. And that's where I belong. Yes, sir. There are bloodhounds following me? Oh, hello, Alice.
Hello.
Hi, kids. What are you crying about? Alice, did you beat those poor kids?
Frankie, you ought to know why they're crying. It's what you did to their father.
Yes, you beast. You scoundrel. You took our daddy's job.
Well, I didn't really. I only, Gee, look, kids. With his talent, your daddy can get another job.
Where?
Well, he can go... He could work... They'd be glad to have him at... You got me. Wait a minute. He's still working for Jack Benny.
You know there ain't no money connected with that job. Besides, it's too late for anything. He's left us.
Left you?
Naturally. He's a man. What else could he do? No job. No future. He didn't want to burden us. He said he didn't want to live on my money.
What made him change his mind all this time?
This is no laughing matter, Frankie. Do you realize that because of your having that contract, Phil has left us for good? And now I don't have a husband, and the children don't have a father.
Cut it out, Alice.
Oh, Frankie, you're the only one who can make us a happy family again.
Yeah. I guess it's up to me to do the right thing. Alice?
Yes, Frankie?
How would you like to become Mrs. Remley? I'd make a very good father to your children.
Don't get hysterical, girls. I didn't say yes.
All right, stop crying, kids. Alice, I'm not a homewrecker. If it means that much to you, I'll give you back the contract.
Oh, Frankie, I knew you would. Come on, let's go over to your apartment and get
Well,
it.
I haven't got it there. I just told that to Curly. I got it right here in my guitar case. There you are.
Oh, thanks, Frankie. You're a darling. You've made me happy. You've made the children happy. And when I tell Phil he's the star of the show again, he'll be happy, too.
Yeah, but I'm not. Now I'm just a lousy guitar player again. Goodbye, Alice. So long, kids.
Goodbye, Frankie. Children, you were wonderful. I've got to find your daddy and tell him the news. It's a great day for the Harrises.
The Phil Harris Show, with tonight's guest, Elliott Lewis, as Remley. We'll be back after this.
Perhaps 1976 is the year you've decided to improve your home's exterior appearance. Maybe it's a new driveway you need, or a complete landscaping job with new plantings for the front of your home. Or now with warm weather, the desire to own your own swimming pool or backyard patio may be stronger than ever. If that's the case, stop in and get complete information on a home improvement loan from the folks at Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank or Cromwell Savings Bank Division. Cromwell Savings Bank is located at the corner of Main and West Street and at the Cromwell Plaza office next to Kmart in Cromwell with convenient Saturday hours 9 to noon. And Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank has 4 offices to serve you, 2 in Middletown and branches in Montville and Colchester. With the exception of the Middletown office on Main Street, they're also open Saturdays from 9 to noon. Stop in soon. Let them show you how a home improvement loan may take the cramp out of your family's lifestyle. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender. And now back to Dick Bertel.
Our guest tonight on the Golden Age of Radio is Elliott Lewis. Well, Elliott, you were involved in a musical production with Gordon Jenkins a number of years ago. This is a classic recording about New York City called Manhattan Tower.
Gordon wrote the music and the lyrics. The original had no dialogue in it. And the original was for Decca. And he had made, I didn't know, I was at a dinner party one night, and a friend of mine, Bill Robeson, who was a producer, director, and writer in radio, had a copy of an audition pressing, well, not a pressing, an acetate, that Gordon had made of this work that he had done. He had it with piano and narration and his wife singing. His wife is Beverly Marr,
who did the album, yes.
And Robeson was just fascinated with it, and he played it for his guests at the dinner party, and I loved it too. Said, gee, isn't that marvelous? Now, I had known Gordon. We'd worked together on various things. And about 2 weeks later, Gordon had no idea that I had heard this, didn't know anything about it. About 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from Gordon, and he said, can I have lunch with you and meet me at the Vine Street Derby tomorrow? And I said, fine. And I met him, and he said, listen, I wrote a thing called Manhattan Tower. And I said, yeah, I heard that. Gee, that's a marvelous thing. And he said, well, Decca wants to record it, and Carlton Young did the narration, but for some reason they would rather that Carlton doesn't do the narration on the album. To this day, I don't know why. I thought Cam was marvelous, what he did with it. So he said, would you like to do it? And I said, well, I don't know if I can, because I was in the Army at that time, in the Armed Forces Radio Service. And I had a very strange job doing what we call denaturing commercials. We did 120 programs a week and took commercials out and anything that was dated the programs and refilled it and reassembled it. Anyway, I said, I don't know. I'll have to talk to Colonel Tom Lewis and see if I have time. How long will it take? And he said, it'll take you a couple hours. So I talked to Tom, and he said, it's your schedule, and I don't know what you're doing, and as long as you get the work done, it doesn't matter, and I'm sure you can use the money. I had about a nickel in my pocket at the time. So I went over to the RCA recording studios, which they had leased, although it was a Decca album. And there was the orchestra and the chorus, and Beverly, and Gordon, and the script, and we started at 8 o'clock, and at noon he said, thank you very much, and he gave me a check for $250, which was more money than I'd made in a year. And there it was, and they're still selling the Decca album. Later we made a longer version for Capitol as an LP. The Decca was 78. The Capitol LP was recorded, took 3 sessions, 3 days. And on that one, it sounds like I'm singing, and I'm not. That's Bill Lee. And it sounds like Beverly is speaking, and she's not. That's Shirley Mitchell.
Well, I got 4 people playing 2 parts.
Right. And it worked out very well. And that was elongated. There was some dialogue in it. And that was made and released at the same time that Gordon wrote, produced, and directed an NBC special on Manhattan Tower. And so it all timed together. But he's done, the Tower's been done with Bob Goulet and only musical versions and all kinds. But I did do the 2.
You did
I did the original.
The classic versions, I like to call them.
Well, because they were first.
There were great songs in that show, too, weren't there?
Yeah, marvelous. And they've lasted, The Party Thing and Never Leave Me, of course. And he just wrote a lovely, lovely score. And then Married I Can Always Get, which he wrote for the second version, which still goes strong. But it's all over. He's taken it on tour. As I think I mentioned earlier, I was in New York once, and after the album was out, and I was walking down Broadway, and I passed the Capitol Theater, and out front it said, on stage, Gordon Jenkins, Manhattan Tower. And I didn't have time. I wanted to go in and see what they did on stage with Manhattan Tower, but he had something going. I guess the concert version. You know.
Well, let's listen to a little of Manhattan Tower with Elliott Lewis.
It was raining the first time I saw my tower. That is, the first time I saw it in reality. In my mind, I'd seen it many times before. Standing by the ocean, looking out of a train window at night. Even the structure I made with blocks as a child was this same tower that long ago. My heart beat faster than the raindrops as I looked up and saw it painted against the sky. The outside of the building was as beautiful as the outside of anything can be. But the inside was pure enchantment. The elevator operator was Merlin. My feet touched the magic carpet as I ran down the hall. And the key that I turned in the lock was Aladdin's lamp. As I entered the tower for the first time, I knew that at last I had found contentment. A home that I would leave many times, yet never really leave. I went over to the window and looked out at my beloved town. The buildings were constant flames, bright and shining, stronger than the rain. And on the street below were the people that built that fire and kept it alive. 7 million keepers of the flame. The sound of traffic on a New York street creates a strange music. It is an orchestra conducted by the Statue of Liberty with the words engraved forever on her side. It is a great organ, played upon by Father Knickerbocker, master organist. I opened my tower windows wide to let the music in. Gaiety often found its way into my tower. Night after night it was filled with happy people. Thin, happy people, fat, happy people, tall, happy people, short, happy people, old, young, many races from many places. My tower was filled with nice neighborly sounds. Phones ringing, knocks upon the door, many conversations competing madly for attention, and the heartwarming sound of people laughing out loud. We talked mostly about New York, the concerts we'd attended, the humidity, the plays we had seen, the humidity, the musicals on Broadway, and the humidity. Inevitably, sadness found its way into my tower in Manhattan. A sadness born of the thought of leaving. No lovers taking separate paths ever experienced more regret than I, as I looked for the last time at my adopted city. It was twilight, and as I opened the window, the music of Manhattan came whirling in, singing a song, not of the past, not of despair, but of the days to come. A clean, healthy song with words of hope and promise. A promise that someday the tower would be mine forever. Hours later, I could still hear the faint strains of this music as I sat on the westbound train, watching darkness sail along the Hudson. And as I thought of my friends, and my dream, and my love, my sadness left me and I began to smile. For I knew that someday I would return, that I must return. For I left my heart behind in that tower in Manhattan.
Classic recording and a tremendous narration by our guest tonight on the Golden Age of Radio, Elliott Lewis, Manhattan Tower. We'll be back right after this.
Tomorrow's dreams will be financed with today's savings. And when you open a savings account at Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank or its Cromwell Savings Bank division, you not only get a variety of savings plans to choose from, you also get the greatest interest available by law. What's more, the passbook they give you may be used at any of their 6 conveniently located offices. Build a solid foundation for your future with a savings account at Cromwell Savings at the corner of Main and West Street, or the Cromwell Plaza office next to Kmart in Cromwell. Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank has 4 offices to serve you, 2 in Middletown, and branches in Montville and Colchester. Stop in soon. All offices are open Saturdays from 9 to noon, except the Farmers and Mechanics Main Street office in Middletown. In addition to the convenience of one-stop banking and convenient hours, you'll also find plenty of free parking. Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank and Cromwell Savings Bank Division are members of FDIC. And now back to the Golden Age of Radio.
Our guest tonight here on the Golden Age of Radio is Elliott Lewis, a well-known radio actor during the heyday of radio. But, Elliott, after the war, you started getting into writing and producing.
When I first started acting, what I really wanted to do was write. I had bought a typewriter and I was writing. The acting I had a facility for. I never really enjoyed it, except something like Remley. I like comedy. That's fun. The other is, to me, acting is kind of dull, and so I wanted to go and do the other things. And Bill Spear, who was producing and directing Suspense and was, to my mind, probably the greatest of
Well, Dick and I both agree, the greatest guy we ever met in this business.
Yeah,
really a wonderful guy.
Marvelous. And Bill, I wrote scripts for him, and then he had me editing scripts all this while I was acting. And then we got very close. We had a good relationship. And he wasn't well for a while, and he asked if I would produce and direct Suspense for him, and I did some. Then he had to go to Europe to do a picture with June, his widow, and the Masons, James and Pamela, were married at that time. And Pamela had written a book and done the adaptation, and James and June were going to co-star, and Bill was going to produce and direct it. And that meant that he'd have to give up suspense. And he, in a very dramatic scene, handed me the torch and said, "You go do this, I'm going to go do pictures." And I said, "Fine, off you go." And he said, "And also take care of Howard and Sam Spade for me while I'm gone." So there I was finally doing producing and directing, which is what I wanted to do, and writing and editing. And the only acting I was still doing at that time was Remley. And I asked Phil if it was all right. I didn't have an exclusive deal with him, but occasionally he'd want to travel the show or whatever. We did some from New York and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
He had no objections, so there I was.
Well, of course, radio, as we used to know it back in the 50s and before, was dormant. But then just recently, you developed a production company and produced Zero Hour. And could you tell us a little about how you got that started? And
a young man named Jay Kolos, who has an advertising agency out here in the Valley, had a notion that it was a good time to do dramatic radio. And he called a man named Jack Myers, who I've known for years. Jack and I worked together, and told him what his idea was and asked him how you would go about doing such a thing. And what Jay's notion was that in order to break in and get an audience, you couldn't just do one 15-minute show once a week. You had to do something that held to it, and about all they could afford, and it seemed a good idea, was to do a cliffhanger, and in other words, to do 5 half hours that really, a week, that really was one story. So Jack called me and asked me if I'd be interested, and I said, yeah, that sounds like a marvelous idea. We did an audition show, that is to say 5 half hours, of a book by Bill Ballinger called The Wife of the Red-Haired Man, and we starred Howard Duff, and Patty Duke Aston, and John Aston, and a cast of thousands. We had a big cast. And Janet Waldo, and Irene Tedrow, and Les Tremaine, and Janet and Irene, incidentally, I'd forgotten. I called both women, actresses, to be on the program, and I'd forgotten that they were mother and daughter in the Corliss Archer series. And they looked at each other and started laughing and said, well, and here we are doing it again. And anyway, we did it, and then they went off and they sold it for syndication. And the first of the syndicated stations picked it up. I think KGIL out here was one of the first. But I know Howie was on the road. We had then, when we were in production on the further ones, when the first show went on the air, Duff was doing The Price, wasn't he?
The Price, yeah. He was on tour with that. But like all things, something went a little bit awry. Rather than syndicate, you went into a mutual, and then what happened then? It was kind of bad news.
We made the shows, and it was, for all I've heard, very, very successful. However, financially, Kolos needed stronger money behind him than to continue to take the chance on syndication, although the stations involved in the syndication wanted to continue. So he made a deal, which favorable to himself, which he had to do, with the Mutual Broadcasting System, where the program then went on the Mutual Network rather than syndication. However, it didn't go on the Mutual Network till 17th of December. Now, the stations that had it in syndication were then out of material. They had done 65 half hours. Now they're sitting and waiting for Mutual to catch up with them. So we lost a lot of steam that way, I'm afraid.
How did you manage to get the writers? Were there still some from the golden age available, so to speak, or did you find new people?
No, well, a combination. First of all, I needed a story editor because to do the 5 half hours is a big job. What we did to get material that we wanted was to dramatize a novel, a mystery novel, because a novel has sufficient plot to take you through the 5 half hours. And that part of your job is then done. So what we needed were people to do the adaptations of the novel. I needed a story editor so that while I was working on casting and working in the studio and doing all of these jobs, somebody could be polishing the scripts that the writers had done, which were adaptations of the novels we bought. And I also had to be reading novels for future. So instead of getting somebody who'd been doing it for a long time, I got a young writer named Kim Weiskopf, who had never done radio. And he very quickly learned what radio was. And Kim then would work with someone like Shirley Gordon, who was a radio writer, now writes television, but Shirley would do adaptations and Kim would do the final polishes. We recorded in stereo, which is interesting too. Some of the stations played it that way, and we got some pretty good effects.
And the way you described it, it's got to be one of the greatest things that ever happened in radio.
Well, I think when you hear this is the 0 hour, and then Stan's piano starts, you're hooked right there.
You're listening to the 0 hour. Rest your eyes. Exercise your imagination. Today, Glenn Hall Taylor's tragedy of murder in a theater. Violence takes a curtain call. Starring Shelley Berman. In the Mutual Broadcasting System presentation of the 0 hour.
Well, that sounds like a great show, the 0 hour. We're going to hear, incidentally, one of Elliott Lewis's regular roles, something I think you'll probably remember and you'll enjoy very much, right after this message.
If this is the fall your son or daughter begins college, there's a wedding in your family, or you plan to do some traveling, you may find the going smoother with a personal loan from Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank or its Cromwell Savings Bank division. If you have personal financial obligations to meet or to clear up, stop in to any of the 6 conveniently located offices and chat with one of their friendly loan officers. There's a Cromwell Savings Bank at the corner of Main and West Street, or the Cromwell Plaza office next to Kmart in Cromwell. Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank has 4 offices to serve you, 2 in Middletown and branches in Montville and Colchester. Stop in soon. All offices are open Saturdays from 9 to noon, except the Farmers and Mechanics Main Street office in Middletown. In addition to the convenience of one-stop banking and convenient hours, you'll also find plenty of free parking. Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank and Cromwell Savings Bank Division are members of FDIC. And now back to Dick Bertel.
Our guest tonight on the Golden Age of Radio is actor, producer, writer Elliott Lewis. And, Ed, I'd like to hear Elliott Lewis as Archie. Remember Archie in Nero Wolfe?
The Amazing Nero Wolfe, starring Francis X. Bushman as Nero Wolfe, the celebrated criminologist, and Elliott Lewis as Archie. If you've ever been spattered by an enthusiastic puppy who's been out in the rain, then you can sympathize with Nero Wolfe's feelings about his secretary, Archie Goodwin. No umbrella is wide enough, no raincoat large enough to protect the corpulent detective against Archie's enthusiastic splashing in the field of crime. Perhaps it's poetic justice, then, that Archie should also be victimized in his turn by a blundering St. Bernard in the person of 1-, so called because he's minus 1 brain.
Hi, Archie.
Oh, Minus. Hello.
I was kind of waiting for you.
Oh, don't think I'm not flattered, Minus, but doesn't anybody else ride in that cab of yours? Suppose I want to walk home.
Mr. Wolf don't like you to do that, Archie.
Oh, I'm overwhelmed by his solicitude.
Yeah, huh?
Oh, skip it. Look, Minus, would it be all right with you if I breathed a little fresh air?
No, that's all right with me. Like I heard a guy say, live and leave live.
Yeah. Well, then let's leave live by all means, okay. Unharness the horsepower.
Huh? What horse?
No, never mind. Drive.
Oh, yeah. You was visiting a dame?
Visiting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A dame, well...
Hey, Arch.
Yeah?
Is it true what they say about dames?
Definitely. I mean, what do they say about it?
Well, some fellas say, that dames, that they is the mercenary type. Is that a fact?
Well, frankly, Minus, I wouldn't know. No dame has been mercenary with me since the 7th grade in PS 198. That was the year when I cornered the Miggy's market, you know.
Oh? How'd she make out?
Well, I had to take up checkers after she got through with me. Hey, watch that red light, Minus.
How can I watch the light and see where I'm driving at the same time?
You got two eyes, haven't you?
Yeah, but they both see the same thing. Ain't that surprising?
Almost as amazing as the ears business.
No, that ain't so, Archie.
Oh, look, don't tell me you hear different things with each ear.
No, only my left ear don't hear nothing. The drum has been punctuated.
Puncture? Pardon me while I go into a comma.
Hey, Archie, you know I got a lot of commas.
Will you say that again, Minus? Slowly?
I'm loaded with commas. And you know how come? I just bought a book for $0.25.
You bought a book? Minus, can you read?
No, not good, but heck, Archie, I didn't buy the book for reading.
Oh, silly of me, of course not. Nobody buys a book for reading. What did you buy it for?
Sitting. You see, Archie, this ain't a new cab.
Oh, it isn't?
No. And the driver's seat has been sagging, see? The springs in it give up.
Archie and the springs, we both give up.
Well, I gotta have springs on account of I was beginning to sit so low I could only see the sky when I was driving. You know, Archie, the sky's a beautiful thing. Them colors, them sunsets.
Oh, Minus, you have poetry in your soul.
Yeah, but I didn't have no springs in me seat. So when I seen this big fat book for only $0.25, I bought it. Now I sit on the book
and no more sunsets, huh? Would it be indelicate to inquire what book you're sitting on? I mean the title.
Oh, big words. Something about the improvement of the understanding.
Minus, you couldn't have bought a better book for the purpose, now that the improvement of the undersitting is out of print, of course.
A cereal, huh?
Yeah, no paper.
Hey. Oh, hey, Arch. That other car nearly socked us.
Well, sock it back.
Huh?
Never mind, just let it get past us.
Yeah, but it don't wanna. See? It's headed right at us again.
Well, pull ahead fast. Maybe you can get out of its way. Whoever's driving it must be nuts.
Yeah, well, I gotta get out of the way then. Hey! Now the guy's shooting at us. What'll they be thinking of next?
About improving their aim, I guess. That car's behind us. I can't see who's at the wheel, but whoever it is, I don't like him. Minus, can you speed up a little?
Well, I'll try, but this cab ain't got but one speed.
Oh, that was close. He's pulling up on us. Minus, see that lunch wagon up ahead?
Yeah.
Drive right up the front steps.
Yeah, but Archie, I ain't hungry.
Do what I tell you. It's our only chance. We got to attract attention and companionship.
Are you lonely, Archie?
Minus! Minus, you all right?
I ain't sure. Hey, Archie, look what I got sitting in me lap. A radiator.
A hot number, huh? Drop it.
Okay.
Ow. Take it easy. Hey, Minus, you better climb out of it.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute, Archie. I must have cut my jugular vein. I'm bleeding to death.
Hey, let me... Uh-huh.
Mortuary, huh? Archie, I'm leaving you the cab.
Minus, that isn't blood. Taste it.
Taste? Okay. Ketchup.
Good, huh? Oh, a pistol-packing monster must have scrammed. Come on, we better get home.
Hey, what do you mean driving into my wagon like this?
Oh, we thought it was a drive-in, you know.
We're going to the dog. What do you want?
A hamburger on a bun. I already got the ketchup.
Minus. Look, mister, it was an accident. Here's a couple of bucks. We'll send a towing car to get the cab out of your joint, but we're in a hurry at the moment. Minus.
Yeah?
Grab that sitting book and let's go.
What do you want the book for? You want something to read?
Not exactly, but I could use something to improve my understanding. So you see, Mr. Wolf, how narrowly we escaped a fate worse than death.
Archie, no histrionics, please.
Oh.
Now, your conclusions.
The book. Nobody loves me well enough to kill me. Minus hadn't been bothered before he bought that book, therefore...
It seems probable. Minus?
Huh? Oh, I was just looking into this here volume. Hey, listen to what this guy says.
Hmm?
There is a devil haunts thee in the likeness of an old fat man. A ton of man is thy companion. Hey, Archie, was he writing about Mr. Wolf?
Confound you, Minus.
Then he says, peace, ye fat guts, lie down.
Yeah.
And the other guy says, have you any levers to lift me up again, being down? Hey, Archie, the guy who wrote that must have been acquainted with your boss.
Blast you, he's been dead for 300 years. That was from Henry IV, Part 1, Act 2, Scenes 2 and 4, by one William Shakespeare.
I never heard of him.
Well, he's a fairly well-known type English playwright, Minus.
But then who was he writing about?
Somebody called Falstaff, I think.
Falstaff? Falstaff? Oh, you mean that poet on the radio with Fred Allen?
For the time being, Minus, we will accept that definition. Now, let me see that book.
Yeah, here you are, Mr. Wolf.
Bound with... Yes, false cover. And underneath... Good heavens.
Huh?
A first folio Shakespeare.
Is that bad?
Are you sure, boss?
Quite sure.
Well, then no wonder Minus and I were targets for tonight. Boss, how much is that thing worth?
Thousands, Archie. Heaven alone knows how many.
Holy gee. Hey, Archie, I got a bargain.
You're likely to get a few bullets for the same price, too. I hope I'm not a good prophet. Shall I scream for help, boss, or open the door?
Open the door. I'm curious to see who it is.
Okay. And if I die, I will have died for literature.
Hello.
I'd rather live. Hello.
May I come in?
You'd better. If my eyes pop any further, they'll fall out of my face.
Very sweet of you to say that.
Archie, will you shut that blasted door?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Wolf's getting restless. This way, please. By the way, my name is Archie.
I'm Susan Lee.
Susan. Beautiful name. Oh, Mr. Wolf, Miss Lee.
Hey, Archie.
Oh, yes, Minus. Miss Lee.
We have met before.
Oh, yes. You're the gentleman I sold the wrong book to.
Sure. She's the dame at Crown Bookstore.
Oh, this book, Miss Lee?
Yes, that's the one, Mr. Wolf. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, but I really shouldn't have sold that book.
Why not?
Well, I'm very attached to it.
Oh, indeed.
Yes, you see, I went to school with its author.
Oh, you carry your 300 years very well, Susan.
Oh, well...
Archie means, of course, that Spinoza, who wrote The Improvement of the Understanding, lived 300 years ago.
Why, yes, of course he did. What I meant was that I studied the book in high school.
Spinoza in high school?
Well, it was a very progressive school.
Yes, no doubt. And you're a very bad liar.
How dare you say a thing like that? I'm just trying to... Oh, I am a bad liar, aren't I?
Among the poorest in my long experience of liars. Why do you want the book, Miss Lee?
Because I'll lose my job if I don't get it back. Mr. Garvey was furious. He's my boss. He owns the Crown Bookstore.
I see. Tell me, Miss Lee, did Minus leave his name, address, and probable whereabouts when he bought the book?
No, of course not. But you see, his buying a book on philosophy seems so odd.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'll have you know, young lady, that I'm a student of what you said.
Yes. So I noticed his license number. Then when Mr. Garvey returned and made such a fuss about the book, I called the police, and they told me that cab had just entered a lunch wagon. I went to the lunch wagon, and, well, here I am.
So you are. However, I'm afraid Minus has grown attached to the book. As he said, he's a student of philosophy. Therefore, I'm afraid he's quite determined to let the purchase stand.
Oh, but he can't. I'll lose my job.
Well, perhaps he'll help you find another one.
Oh, but that's unfair. The book only cost a quarter, and I'm willing to pay him for his lost time.
Can you assess the risk of death, Miss Lee?
What?
Minus was almost killed as a result of his innocent desire for the higher thoughts.
Yeah.
Me too.
Be still, Archie. You never had a higher thought in your life.
Okay. You take the higher thoughts, and I'll take the lower thoughts, and I bet I have a lot more fun than you.
How can you joke about something that's so serious to me?
Archie, take Miss Lee back to her bookstore. You will explain to Mr. Garvey that the purchaser of the book is an opinionated and stubborn character who refused to return it.
Who, me?
That may help absolve Miss Lee of the responsibility. And now, good night.
But
Sorry, Susan. He's got his eyes closed, and when he does that, it's a lost cause. Come on, we'll go see Mr. Garvey. If necessary, I'll knock him down for you.
All right. It is sweet of you.
Oh, think nothing of it. Susan, may I call you Miss Lee?
Nero Wolfe. And the character Archie is portrayed by our guest tonight, Elliott Lewis. Elliott, thank you very, very much for sharing your career, as it were, and the marvelous stories that you have from the golden age of radio.
Well, it's my pleasure.
And now, until next time, this is Dick Bertel.
This is Ed Corcoran.
Good night.
Jack Benny with Mary Livingston, Phil Harris, Rochester.
The Golden Age of Radio has been brought to you by WTIC and Farmers and Mechanics Savings Bank and their Cromwell Savings Bank Division. Hometown friends serving your best banking interests in every way. The Golden Age of Radio was produced by Bob Shirago and Dick Bertel.
A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-yo silver. The Lone Ranger.
You know, Charles, many's the time I wish you could be here to fill that terrible vacancy.
In your heart, Mr. Fields?
Oh, in my fireplace.
Hits the spot, 12 full ounces, that's the